All right, powered by GoGo Sports in partnership with TSN. This is season 3. Ray, it is episode 39 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. I mean, bang! Season 3 is just about over. Presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. We've got Bruce Cassidy, the newly minted head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. You get it? Newly minted. Lots of betting happening.
Did you think of that?
Yeah, I did. It
just have somebody, or did Tiny write that for you?
No, Tiny's down and out today. I don't know what's going on. I'm a bit concerned. She didn't eat her breakfast. She's got some sore hips, I think, which for a big dog is a problem. So she's kind of laying low. How are you, by the way? You know, we recorded the podcast.
You can go ahead. You can tell the story, Drake. So you can go ahead.
What's that? About you being late?
Oh, yeah. That's how I'm doing.
No, that's fine. I mean, we record the Ray and Dregs podcast as most do, unless you're going live in increments, right? And that's just the way we function because we're busy guys. You're busy. You're in Denver. So we had Chris Abbott from coolbet.co. He was waiting patiently, normally, to record our weekly interview. And no Ray Ferraro. No Ray. Text Ray, no response. So I better call Ray. And you were clearly working out. So and we cut you full slack. Nobody was slagging you behind your back as we were waiting.
Well, how would I know?
Well, because
I trust you guys.
Yeah, I'd be honest. But in fairness, you've been in the East, you've been in the Pacific region. You know, now you're, Mountain time. So
I never get this time zone right. I never, ever, ever get it right.
Anyway, for that reason, your slight tardiness will be forgiven.
Thank you. I'm back. Game 1 in the books. Day off yesterday. Played golf.
Did you?
Yeah. And you can hit it far in Denver
because of the altitude, right?
Oh yeah, not because I got a better swing here. It just goes farther.
Who'd you play with?
Brian Boucher, Dave Jackson, Sean McDonough, and Mark Messier was there. Nice. He did not play very well. He's like not his best day. You know, you might know Mess is a little competitive.
Ooh. So how does that manifest?
Hang on. Kevin Stadler as well. So
oh wow. Okay.
And so he's hits the ball like, he's trying to come back. He's on the Corn Ferry tour. He had some hand issues and in the past, but oh my gosh, he had a couple of drives that were like, he could probably give us another 30 yards to move up to fairway.
So let's revisit Mess, and then we got to get into headlines. But how does his frustration, his competitiveness manifest on a golf course?
It doesn't. It's just he's really calm, but you can tell he kind of hits this little fade most of the time. Right. Yesterday, that was not there.
Ooh.
So the ball is in the wrong place all the time. And we've all had that on a day, and we got rental clubs, and halfway through the round, he's like, "Oh, this is a regular shaft." You can
That's
imagine
what the problem is.
Mess is a little stronger than most, so he could use a little stiffer club. But really, it was really a great day, pleasant day, and
it sounds like
shot
fun.
79, so I was pretty happy with it.
Oh, good for you. Well, again, we'll move on here, but I'm thinking for whatever reason, and I'm not suggesting that Mess is a hothead, away from the game that he played.
Honestly,
so well.
Completely opposite.
Yeah,
completely opposite.
Because I'm thinking of McIlroy in the bunker in round 1 of the U.S. Open, right? Where he wasn't even in the bunker. He was in the long grass, flubs it, and then just goes after the bunker like a wild man yesterday.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't be doing that. We're not good enough to lose our temper like that.
No, but it happens. So
that's so.
Apologies to Mess. I wasn't implying that he's a poor
I'm going to tell him.
Yeah. Okay, headlines presented by our friends at Boston Pizza. Ray, the Boston Pizza patio, as we know, is back. I was on it the other day in Whitby, Ontario, Canada. Great spot. Delicious new summer menu as well, but only for the limited time. Got the new Mexican-inspired items like the Fiesta salad, the loaded Tex-Mex fries. The Tex-Mex fries are outrageously good. So visit your local BP today because Boston Pizza is the place where those in the know patio.
Oh, I didn't know you were waiting for me. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Hold on.
I'm not sure. Here we go.
All right, let's dive into headlines. Shea Weber, what a remarkable deal. Shea Weber's contract traded to the Vegas Golden Knights. One of those rare situations where, money gets moved all the time. We see it a couple of times a season. But normally there's a sweetener attached, right? Or a reason why a team would take on a contract from a player that's not playing in the NHL. He's just not. And this is a big number. So the Vegas Golden Knights clearly put Shea Weber's contract on long-term injury. They move out Evgeny Dadonov's $5 million contract, even though he has a year left. So it's a seemingly excellent fit, isn't it, for both teams? Because Dadonov is a decent player. If Montreal chooses to keep him, he's going to help them. And they're a team that doesn't like LTIR, or they can use it elsewhere, but they just didn't want to hold on to that contract anymore.
Okay, so I want you to explain, if you can.
Yeah.
So Weber's got 4 years left.
Yep.
At multi-millions, right? When it goes on LTI, is that contract, part of it, insured?
Yes.
Is it, so Vegas is not picking up the full ticket on LTI.
Correct.
They're picking up the non-insured part. The whole number goes on LTI.
Yes.
But Vegas pays the non-insured portion.
And important to note that in the 4 years remaining, the actual salary, I believe, is $3 million for next season, and then goes $1 million, $1 million, $1 million. But the actual cap hit is applied to LTIR, right?
But so now Vegas has to, if, as I understand LTI, and I do not, they have to get their cap as close to the $81.5 million top end as possible
before using it.
Before using the Weber LTI. And for Montreal, they're worried about Carey Price's long-term health.
Yeah.
That he may have to go on LTI, and then you're paying $20 million on LTI money. Yeah. Which of course nobody really wants to do.
No, because you have overages, right? Yeah. And your recall gets more costly from a cap space perspective. I mean, the truth is, for anyone who wants to really dive into this, just go on a Cap Friendly, right? They do a masterful job of detailing and explaining all of that. So anyway, it shows, I don't know if desperation is the right word of the Vegas Golden Knights, but some creativity. So they didn't need the sweetener because they'll utilize the LTIR. And most importantly, they knocked Dadonov's $5 million off their cap. So now McCrimmon can go out and do whatever he needs to do.
Well, I'm laughing because this is the third time they've traded him.
Yeah.
And this is the first time he's going to leave. So it is creative, yes, but I think the first word's part of it too, Dregs. It is desperate. They did not have a choice. And I still think they are right jammed up against the number anyway.
For sure.
So it's been a busy week in Vegas.
It has been. Again, we've got Bruce Cassidy, the new head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights, on the podcast today. One more thought on Montreal. I mean, the draft is looming here. I don't know. Have you seen enough of Shane Wright to this point, or Slafkovský, or Cooley? I mean, go down the list. That if you were Ken Hughes, if you were management of the Montreal Canadiens, you'd be going, okay, first pick, we know what direction that we'd like to go. Because I'm telling you, and I believe them, Montreal is saying they haven't decided yet who they're taking first overall. They haven't decided.
Okay, I've seen more of Slafkovský than of the other guys. I'm talking about in a live setting.
Yeah.
So, Wright, by all accounts, is stable and sturdy and will be an NHL player for a long time with a limited upside offensively.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Cooley is a burner. He is fast. He's not very big. He's really confident. He's creative. So there is the hope of bigger numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
Slafkovsky's different because he's a giant and he's got really good hands. And I'm looking at the Stanley Cup Final the other day. Do you know how many really small players are there? None.
Yeah, not many.
I mean, there are, but they're like, okay, so you're gonna create offense against Tampa. Hedman, Ruda, McDonough,
Chernak. They're big dudes.
Sergachev, Bogosian. Where is the where's the little? And then you go to Colorado and you can say, well, they're not very big, especially with Sam Girard there. But Cale Makar is a magician. Doesn't matter how
Yeah.
big he is.
Yeah.
Devon Taves is a sturdy guy. Bo Byram's got good size. And then you've got the Johnsons. They're big. So unless that smaller player to me is exceptional, I would have some reservation on it. And I'm talking about him being like I don't know if there's enough between Cooley and Wright to say, I'm going to take Cooley over top.
Right. Yeah.
Slafkovsky's the guy that I would worry about because I really, if I'm New Jersey, I'm sitting there and I'm hoping that somebody else goes first. They already have enough small forwards.
Yeah.
Slafkovsky looks like a Jersey player to me.
I'm telling you, man, I saw a picture of him the other day. And your description is right on point. I mean, he is a giant human being. And playing against men, he plays with a bit of bite. He's got some edge in his game. There is a lot to like about Slafkovsky.
It's a tough spot for Montreal. Now,
it is.
Montreal's got 3 picks in the first 33
yeah.
this year. So
yeah.
Not with the first pick, but maybe they can dance around with the next 2 picks a little bit. Like there's going to be, I think this first round will have a lot of movement in it. Amongst the picks, there seems to be a lot of churn with who likes which pick and which place.
So I heard a rumor the other day about Montreal. I know Montreal is trying to trade up. I mean, aside from first pick overall, they've got 14 picks. You can't sign 14 players. We've done this dance with Ottawa in the past. But I heard a rumor from another team suggesting that Montreal is going to try and somehow land that second pick from New Jersey. So they've got the top 2 picks. I'll believe it when I see it. Who are you giving up? What are you giving up?
Well, you're giving up
to acquire that pick.
Jersey doesn't need a pick. Jersey needs a player.
Yeah.
And they need a player and a pick. So if I'm Jersey, I'm looking at the 26th pick.
Yeah.
And a player.
And a good player.
Yeah, we're not. Don't have Montreal fans say, "Oh, let's trade them Paul Byron." And
would you do it for Josh Anderson? We don't normally speculate like this.
But I mean, that's the type of It's got to be a difference maker. And the reason Josh Anderson intrigued me right when you said it is, again, he's big and he can skate and he can score
contract. He's under contract. So that helps Fitzy and the Devils, right? They're not messing around with
what about Jeff Petrie?
Yeah. Well, maybe that's part of a package, right? Yeah. I mean, if you're elevating to second pick overall to go along,
it's a big package.
It's a big package. It has to be. Yeah. Love this stuff.
Oh, all right. Whoever, you're in it.
John Tortorella to the Philadelphia Flyers as head coach. They confirmed on Friday, 4-year deal, I believe $4 million, whatever, doesn't really matter to us. First of all, your thoughts on Tortorella as the next coach of the Flyers.
He's got a lot of work. He's got a lot of work in front of him.
Chuck Fletcher,
yeah. That team is not. I don't know what they are. I guess is what I mean. Now I know they had some injuries that really buckled them this year. So I'm watching them with Kevin Hayes was limping around on one leg most of the year.
Yeah.
Of course, he was dealing, and I can't even imagine, with the death of his brother from last summer. Long year for Kevin Hayes. They didn't have Sean Couturier. They didn't have Ryan Ellis. So if those 3 players are back to, serviceable health, Torts is going to get a better team to start with.
Yeah.
But they have no identity. They're not fast. They're not skilled. They're not tough. They're kind of a little bit of all of it. And I think one of the things that Torts has been always really good at is you know in a hurry what type of team that's going to be.
Yeah.
They're going to work. They're going to stick their nose in. They're going to try. There's a misnomer about John too, that he wants this plodding, tough 1990s game. That's not what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when they won the cup? He was the first one that had a slogan, I remember, and he had "safe as death."
Yeah.
He wanted those guys pressure up the ice, to be aggressive. And it's his last kick at the can.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can see there are times where his stubbornness will be on full display, but there's a difference to John that was not there 10 years ago
Right.
in
Right.
the way he coaches his players, the way he coaches his systems, the way he wants his team to play.
Yeah. He fits into that group, and it's a relatively small group of hockey people where I think the NHL game is better with John Tortorella in it for a myriad of reasons, right? I just
Yeah.
I think he's proven as a very, very good coach. Anybody who knows him, and you know him, right? Um, the stuff you see in the media, the bite back, the push, the bickering with reporters and all of that, that's not John Tortorella. I mean, he's super protective of his players, of his organization, and there are some things that he's just never going to share with the media. But a super good person, right? He just
He
is.
I would say the one thing that I think I even saw it this year. Like, we argued on air early about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Zegras goal, and to him, he doesn't know Trevor Zegras. If he got to know him as he was coaching him and realized that Zegras wants to win as badly as John does, it's just different, they'll
right.
be fine.
Yeah, yeah,
He's looking at it and he always says, look, I'm not in that room. His connection to the players has to always evolve because there is a bluntness with John,
mm-hmm.
like, and the younger players sometimes don't like that as much, and that to me is from a interaction perspective, that's the biggest challenge. But
Right.
John's a good person. I wouldn't want to be asking him a question every day, but he's a good person.
Okay, let's zip through headlines here, and obviously we have to talk about the Stanley Cup Final as we brace for Game 2, and this will be a theme throughout the podcast, episode 38. But what a start for Colorado, and I mean that specifically, not just because they won the game, they won it in overtime, but what a start! I mean, maybe their top end guys like McKinnon didn't have his best, but they came out buzzing, didn't they? In the first period, right from puck drop.
Well, Tampa's been, they've been through Toronto, they've been through Florida, they've been through the Rangers. None of them play to the pace that Colorado plays at. Like
Yeah.
that first 10 minutes, there's a lot of factors in it. It's the first 10 minutes of the final, even though they've been there before, they're a little bit on their heels because they're on the road anyway.
Yeah.
The forecheck, like when I talk about fast and pace, it's not just racing up and down the ice. Watch their forecheck. Like on the Nichushkin goal,
Yeah.
he was on the puck in the corner. It went around the boards. Makar pinches way down the boards. There's no room. He gives it to McKinnon. What the hell's McKinnon doing out there? Well, he'd come back over top to support. He gives the puck. He gives it to Nichushkin. It's in the net. And it's like bang, bang, bang. 4 seconds from the corner to the net. It's awesome to watch. Couple that with the two shaky goals that Vasilevsky does not give up. Like that Rantanen shot that goes through him.
Yeah.
That puck never gets through him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Landeskog punches it in. I screwed that call up. I thought it was Rantanen shot that went in. I screwed it up. Anyway, oh well. And Vasilevsky screwed the shot up. We'll call it even.
Exactly.
So I think the real challenge for Tampa is going to be every puck decision they make has to be faster than every puck decision they've made through the playoffs this year. That to me is the biggest adjustment from game 1 to game 2 for them, because Colorado is fast and they're big. You know who was awesome in game 1? Darren Helm.
Really good. Physical, right?
10, I don't know how he can play like this, but he had 10 hits, about 3 shots.
Hard on the forecheck. Yeah.
And so this is Darren Helm from 2008.
Yeah.
Like he was a remarkable player in that first game.
Well, and that's what you need to win, right? Is that sort of commitment and depth. So by the time we get to episode 39, I think we'll clearly have a better look at what the Stanley Cup Final is going to look like as we go into game number 2 on Saturday. Thank you to Boston Pizza for headlines. Our interviews on Ray and Dregs are brought to you by our friends at Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? Why not try refreshing CC Ginger Ale next time you're having a drink or watching the game? And How about the CC and ginger ale mixed and ready in a can? It's now available pretty much everywhere here in Canada. Summer is here. It takes all of the challenges out of making a refreshing CC and ginger ale. All right, Bruce Cassidy now joining us on the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. And Bruce, what a wild couple of weeks it's been for you. But, you know, was it instantaneous? As soon as you kind of got over the immediate shock of being let go by the Boston Bruins, you're like, all right, well, I know I want to be on an NHL bench next season. So let's just see what the interest is.
Yeah, Darren, that's the way it worked. I wanted to go right back to work. I mean, you need an opportunity to do that. So, you know, that's something I put out there right away. Obviously, you know, it has to be a good fit, you know, both professionally and for your family, and likewise for the team that's, you know, reaching out to you. So that was definitely my intent, and, you know, I was able to get it done.
So when Don Sweeney comes to the house, you're not really thinking that this is maybe what's going on, although when he shows up, maybe you got an idea. How do you tell your kids? Like, how do you know, when I got traded, I got traded. I packed up my bags and I left, and the kids were excited I was going to a new team. You didn't have a new place to go. Like, how does that all work, like, from the family side?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Donnie called me, said he was coming over, and you have an inkling what's going on, right? And I respect Donnie. I've worked him for a long time. So you're like, you know, it's not a matter of I need to throw another steak on the grill for Donnie's coming over. There's going to be probably a conversation here. And that's what struck me first. So I went in and said, Julie, to talk to my wife about it real quick. I said, this could happen. So anyway, you know, where are the kids? Because, you know, they're going to need to know. And then we settled in and had a conversation about the team and gave me the news. And again, it's a gut punch at first, Ray. It's also a business, so you sort through that after. And now here we are. It seemed like just yesterday it happened, and we're whatever it is, 10 days down the road, and excited to get back into it with a new team. So as much as it hurt at the time, you know, everyone's excited for the next challenge, right? And that's where we are now.
Are you able to say, when you put the word out, okay, I want to get right back to it? Some coaches want to take a little time. You say, you put the word out, I want to get to it. Did you talk to a number of teams, a few teams? Are you able to say, or?
No, I mean, out of respect to those teams, I talked to a lot of teams. Some probably had more interest than others. Some started to gather some momentum, I guess. Other ones, I don't know if they would have, because it happened fairly quick, right? Some teams have a timeline, who they're going to interview, when, upcoming draft, etc. So they're balancing a few things. So Vegas acted, you know, probably the quickest immediately, and then you know, with an offer that I thought was right in our wheelhouse, so to speak. So it's a place I wanted to work after talking to them. They got a great chance to win. I haven't been in the West. I've spent the majority of my life and coaching in the East, so that I thought would be a great challenge. The travel will be, you know, something new for me in terms of the team, but those are all things that, you know, as a coach, you adjust and learn to. But that's how it played out, and I just thought Vegas sort of was a team that, for lack of a better term, you know, really wanted me to be their next head coach. So that felt good as well, especially after just being let go so recently. So that's how it kind of played out.
You mentioned something that, you know, I always wonder. So you're so immersed in the Boston Bruins and your division, and then by extension, your conference. How much do you know about the Vegas Golden Knights, and how much cramming for the exam did you do after they reached out to talk to you?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, not a lot, and not so much with any particular team because it happened so fast. I think you're more about philosophy and sort of how you want to style a play. How do you see a fit for yourself? How do you see the team, young, old? So it's more those conversations. I don't think you get into direct. So, okay, where's Jack Eichel going to play on the power? You know what I mean? You sort of go through that after now. So you know the teams, but you don't know every like with Vegas, for example, I didn't know who their next wave, who's going to push from underneath, those type of things where I may know better with some teams that we see more often. So, I mean, I think the GMs know that there's only so much you can know. You should know your own team as well as anybody, and focus on the immediate guy. That's one thing about us. We're always in the moment, knowing who's in the lineup for whoever you're playing that night. In our case, Carolina, most recently. So that part of it was fine. Like I said, I don't think anybody came in with sort of an exam style, of where do you see the team in 3 years with our young type of thing. It was more now, from what you see of our team, what do you like and what do you think may need fixing, right? From a guy's perspective from the outside looking in.
Now, Bruce, you obviously have a history with George McPhee that dates back to the Washington Capitals, and George is a key part of the management structure of the Vegas Golden Knights. How much did that relationship or your experience with George factor into you moving so quickly with the Vegas opportunity?
Well, I've always liked George, respect George. He gave me my first opportunity to coach in the National Hockey League. I never forgot that. Never will. We kept up a relationship over the years in terms of when we would see each other, or the odd time I may reach out to George if I had a question and maybe I thought he could give me a little advice in a situation. But I think there's a comfort level for me for sure. And George I think has followed my career as well. Didn't work out the first time. I told him I'll get it right this time, George. But that's 20 years ago, right? So I'm sure we've both learned a lot about the game between now and then. So I certainly know I have. But I think it helped with his sort of maybe with his interactions with Kelly McCrimmon, right? And here's where I see this guy. He was young, strengths and weaknesses. So I believe George was on board. And like I said, I'm looking forward to working with him again.
You mentioned something here that, strengths and weaknesses, and everybody's got them. And so what do you take from Boston, your experience, your success in Boston? I mean, there's no question, Bruce, you took a team. I thought you achieved as much as you were going to achieve this year with your group. You guys always think you can go farther, but I was like, I thought you guys coached and played where you were going to get to, and maybe you win game 7, maybe you don't. What can you take from there? What can you change and be a new guy, or is it the same guy in Vegas?
No, it'll be, changes for sure. I think you have to be true to who you are. And thanks, Ray. I agree with you. I thought as a staff, we did a good job with our group this year. And at the end of the day, lost to a really good team in Carolina. So, I have that, like when I got let go, I didn't sit there and beat myself up over that. There's things you reflect on, but like I said, I thought we coached hard, worked hard at it, and it just didn't work out for the Bruins this year. So on the other side of it, when you talk to Donnie, he's seen me evolve more than anybody. I've worked with him for 14 years and I respect his opinion. So the things we talked about, what he thought was good, your team's organized, they're structured, they're prepared. You can get, good mileage out of some players when they move up into the lineup. So there was good things there. And then he said, your messaging sometimes with certain players, the feedback was that you need to recognize when to sort of push and when to, use a little honey, use honey more than you'd get with vinegar type of, thing. So, and I respect that. And I believe that. I just, some days the best way to get your point across is to be honest and direct. I just have to message that better. I don't think I'll ever get away from that. I think you correct things in a hurry. When you do that, you can revisit them the next day with the player if they feel that it wasn't delivered in the right way. So, and I've done that as well. So that's the takeaway from Donnie. And I'll use it wisely. Why wouldn't I? Right? He's been in the league a long time. But a lot of other stuff he was good about, and it's just time for a change there. I can respect that. Listen, I took over a Ray from a guy that won Stanley Cup and went to the finals, and Claude Julien. So it happens. And I took a spot here from a good coach in Pete DeBoer. So that's I don't want to overthink that part of this process. Just take what he said to heart and use it wisely. It's kind of what I'm going to try to do.
How quick do you start building a staff?
I've talked to Ryan Craig and Misha Donskoff are still here. They're good people, good coaches. So I've started talking to them a little bit about how they see their role, what would they like, what went well. I know we have to hire someone to run the D and have PK strength. So we're talking to people, actually talked to people this morning about that have reached out. So I've always believed that whoever reaches out, I will get back in touch with them. I've been in that position when you're looking for work. It's very difficult. It's very humbling. So I always found, reach out, let them know what you're looking for. You can't hire everybody, but at least, do them the courtesy and show them the respect of showing interest. So that's the process we're going through now. And at the same time, sort of getting a feel for what their strengths are. So it's a little bit of both. We don't have a lot of openings, but whoever sort of we can fit into that area, that's what we want to do.
Just talk about the landscape a little bit, Bruce. I mean, you've got enough on your plate now. You're worried about putting your staff together, as you just talked about in Vegas, probably finding a house, getting your family situated, all of that. Do you remember a time when you look around the National Hockey League where there have been, I think I read somewhere last week, there were as many as 43 coaches, not just head coaches, but assistant coaches on expiring deals. Now, John Tortorella signs in Philadelphia, but you look at the vacancies around the NHL right now in the head coach position. Do you recall a time where there were this many jobs open or the changeover?
If I remember, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I think there was a big wave. I've been fortunate that I was going to go into the last year of my deal this year. And that can be stressful at times, but people have done it and come out of it well on the other side. So that does happen. It's not ideal, but not recently. No, this many, and especially guys reaching out to me. That some of the names are really established guys in the National Hockey League, so you kind of forget that part of it. So I was, like I said, fortunate in Boston. I didn't have to go through it, and our staff as well. So that was always a comforting thing, especially when you have a young family. So hopefully all the chairs get filled. There's a lot of great coaches out there, and you see that every year. New names pop up that do well. There's just only so many spots, right? So that's the unfortunate part about it. But that's the business we chose, and when you get your chance, that's what I always tell everybody. When you get your chance, make sure you're ready and prepared, and get it done. And that's the best you can do, right?
How's house shopping going?
I'm going to look actually in about 3 hours. It was all hockey ops yesterday, a little PR, but I have to poke my head around the neighborhood or Julie, because Julie's not here with me. So at least the good thing
that seems to be a mistake, Bruce. You're out there.
You can do a lot of it online. So she's picked all the houses. So she'll probably come back. But so I do the pre-scout. And then she'll probably come back by herself because she wants me to muddle things up and then take care of business. So we're a good partnership that way.
Perfect. All right, Bruce. Well, we know you're busy. You've got a million things to do, including house shopping, but we appreciate you taking the time to join us here.
Okay. Thanks, Darren. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah. All the best, Bruce.
Oh, one of the favorite parts of the podcast, right? It's when we get to raise a glass of the 44-year-old CC to Bruce Cassidy, the new head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. Thanks, Bruce, for joining us today, presented by our friends at Canadian Club Whiskey. 44-year-old release is now available everywhere. And, considering everything that Bruce Cassidy's been through in the last 10 days to 2 weeks, I felt like I wasn't nervous about the interview because past that stage, but I was wondering, okay, was he going to be uptight a little bit, new to the Golden Knights? Is he going to want to talk about Boston? Man, he just oozes poise and experience, right? And a guy who knows that he's in a real good place now.
Yeah, and so juxtapose that with when he got first hired in Washington. Yeah, he was in his 30s. And, it must have been so overwhelming. And so I'll tell you what I liked a couple of things. One, he's, I had the opportunity to be around him for 2 weeks in the Carolina-Boston series. Yeah. And I was just really impressed with everything with him was really direct. And so in my position, I really appreciated that because there were certain things he'd go, we can't tell you that. Can't tell you that. Other things he would say, 1, 2, 3, 4. And, he did us a solid by being really upfront. I can see where the criticism of him in Boston was his directness.
Yeah.
And the fact, though, that Dregs, to your point, that he acknowledged that and said, so there's sometimes I got to, what did he say, a little honey instead of vinegar to get the point across. And so that's part of a learning process. The crazy part is those guys in Boston that he bumped heads with, they'll never know him other than that.
Right.
But it's his job, Bruce's job, that the players he's going to meet for the first time meet Bruce in his current state, not what he was. That's evolution. That's growth. And the best coaches are able to do that. I think Bruce is one of the best coaches in the league. I really do. And I think he'll do a terrific job with a roster in Vegas that kind of fell apart.
Yeah. And I mean, we didn't even get a chance to talk to him about, he's there hours and Kelly McCrimmon makes a deal, right? He trades out Dadonov to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Shea Weber's contract. But from a coaching perspective, just to wrap things up there, I think that you'd be pleased about that. Not about that deal specifically, but looking at how aggressive the Golden Knights have been in fine-tuning and making big transactions in an effort to try and win the Stanley Cup. Bruce Cassidy isn't going to have to worry about whether or not he's got a conservative general manager or a group that's willing to plug the holes needed to contend for the Cup. That's going to happen, right?
100%. But I would say, Dregs, I would say this. I don't know. I've never been in a coach's interview, but I would want an evolution for my tenure of stability.
Right.
Like one of the things I think in that pursuit of, like, they always are big game hunting in Vegas. Sometimes I think they should hunt less.
Yeah.
Start to build stability with that roster. And maybe they will. Like maybe that's where they're at the point that they're at now.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're always trying for the next best thing, you don't develop anything that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, I know Boston said at their press conference they felt they left, stuff on the table in their year. I don't.
Yeah.
I think their roster played as well as they could for as long as they could.
They got beat by a better team, right?
And Marchand's obviously not the player he was. He has double hip surgery.
Yeah.
Charlie McAvoy, he's got shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
He's like, Bergeron's not sure if he's playing. I think Bruce will do a really good job because the roster will stabilize itself.
Mm-hmm.
Stone will be back. Eichel will play a full season. Petrangelo's not going to have to play 30 minutes a night. Like there's more than enough pieces for that to be a really good team.
All right, time for a weekly visit with Chris Abbott from coolbet.co. And man, there's a lot of stuff going on going into the weekend here, Chris. But let's start with the obvious, and that is the Stanley Cup Final. I think for the most part, you've been pretty strong on the Tampa Bay Lightning from a betting perspective, but are you less confident after game one?
Well, I mean, I got to say, I felt pretty good about them going into the final. And yes, it is only one game, and they've not had great game ones throughout. But yeah, I think after they lost game one to the Leafs, I was happy to put more money down. After they lost, to the Rangers a couple of games, I was quite happy to put money down. Ray, you were there. I'm interested to get your perspective because from what I saw, that was like a work of art for the most part by the Avalanche. The speed and the skill and I was just so impressed, and that's going to be a real challenge if they play like that every night.
Well, from the betting perspective, Chris, what I would say is I'd be worried that it's a typical Tampa game one game. I don't think there's any coach in the league that makes adjustments better in game and in series than John Cooper. I don't think Tampa will look the same in game two as they did in game one. But Nate McKinnon wasn't very good. I mean, by his standard, he was just kind of like, okay. And Colorado was really good. They were all over them. I don't know what the hell happened to Val Nichushkin, but 3 years ago, he had 0 goals and 0 penalty minutes in a season. Like, how does that even happen? You think you'd get a tripping penalty somewhere just standing there. Anyway, he was fantastic. And the only thing that would pause me on Colorado is their goaltending is average at best, just average. And you're not getting 2 on Vasilevsky like that again. So if you look at game 1, it's overtime, and 2 of the goals stunk on Vasilevsky. That does not happen, historically speaking, in the series.
Yeah, and that's the other way I look at it too. Is once Tampa came back, I mean, we got to remember this game did go to overtime, even though it didn't start that well for them. And Vasilevsky, I was like, he's doing it again. He's doing it again. And then, of course, rebound or it's not even a rebound, nice pass goal in overtime. And okay, so they lose game 1, and that's the funny thing about the playoffs is if you lose 10-0 or you lose in overtime, it doesn't matter. It's still a 7-game series, and now you've got Tampa plus 215 to win the Stanley Cup. I'm looking at them, and that's one of the better prices you've seen on them in a while. And that's, like you said, not a great game 1 performance, elevation. You can make whatever excuses you want, and you talk about the adjustments and how good of a coach John Cooper is. So,
let me say one thing about the elevation, Chris, and I'm certainly not anywhere near the condition that I used to be. I just walked out of the gym. Halfway through, I almost bonked in the gym. I had to stop for a second. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in Denver. Yeah. I couldn't breathe.
It matters.
And so I don't think there's any question that played a factor in game 1.
All right. Well, pay. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say, well, maybe you've talked me into betting a little bit more at the plus 215 on Tampa now.
Don't do it if they get down 2. Don't do it. They're not winning 4 or 5.
Okay.
Ray, you're going to love this story. Before you joined us, we were talking a little bit about the U.S. Open. And there, as Chris will share here, there's so many different ways you can bet on golf, obviously. Okay, Chris, tell the story of the dude who bet on Adam Hadwin, the Canadian, to lead after round 1 of the U.S. Open. I mean, that's a ballsy wager. I kid you not.
Well, our social media team posted the ticket this morning, $36 at odds of 110 to 1. Ends up at about $4,000, like 39 something. And it's funny, we always talk about the betting from a Canadian perspective when we're talking about hockey and the Blue Jays and all that. But yeah, we get a lot of action on these Canadian golfers. That's awesome. Oftentimes in these tournaments, the first round leader is certainly not the guy who wins at the end of the day. So it is, as you alluded to, Dregs, it's a way for people to get some long shot bets that might hit. And this guy, $36, and he turned it into $4,000.
Okay, when I see that, I'm like, well, why didn't he bet $72?
Exactly.
When I see 36, I think he had 36 left in his account.
That's it.
And he he was like, all right, let's do this. Yeah, it's an odd number for sure, but it was lucky. Maybe he'll be betting a lot more 36s as we go.
Yeah, he'll be kicking himself that he didn't bet more, right? I mean, obviously put 100 down, it turns into a nice number.
It's always the remorse, right? Yeah, you could have bet on the Orioles to score over 9.5 runs yesterday at an ungodly number 2 against the Jays. But it always is, I should have bet more. But hey, you got to be happy with the wins. And now he's got a nice little bankroll for whatever else he wants to bet.
Good amount of money wagered on the Warriors to win the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, with that team, there's always action. They certainly weren't favorites. They were kind of also coming into the playoffs, especially, even if you rewind it to the early part of the season, it's like, well, the Warriors, they got some old veterans that had success, but, where's their depth? Where's this? Where's that? And they certainly weren't near the, upper echelon, many people thought, I don't think, in the Western Conference. And then, they just grinded it out, got it done. And, there's always money bet on the Warriors, and some people got some pretty good odds. I was looking at it today. There was some, 10, 12, 20 to 1s during the year, I think, at different varieties of tickets that cash. So yeah, there's definitely money to be had. And, being here in Toronto, I think there's a lot of people happy just that the Celtics didn't win, even if it was the Warriors.
All right, we'll let you go with this Canadian Grand Prix this weekend.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely crazy. I mean, as we all know, over the last 2-3 years, with the Netflix series, especially that F1 has had this amazing growth. And a lot of us grew up watching F1, on Sunday mornings on TSN. But, now it's certainly very, very mainstream. And of course, you can bet a whole lot. You can bet who's going to win the qualifying, head-to-head, finishing the race, and all that stuff. And it's going down in Montreal. hardest ticket to get in town. We looked at going over and would have had to mortgage the house again just to get in the doors. So yeah, it's a hot ticket in Montreal, and I'm jealous I'm not there this weekend. But yeah, there's you can bet whatever you like, and we'll take a lot of action.
Well,
on that
I know you guys have both been in Montreal. Let's just hope there's no road construction on the track.
Oh, of course not. I mean, you can get anywhere downtown.
Oh, that city they're going to get that all paved and sorted out by 2049.
The concrete guys, it's all concrete in Montreal.
Oh, yeah. How does that work?
All right. Well, there's a ton going on this weekend, obviously, Chris. So the books will be happy. We'll check back in episode 39.
Sounds good, Dregs. Thanks so much. Yeah, it's one of those things. We say the summer's a slow time for sports betting, but look at all these things, and we didn't even touch on it all. So another great weekend at the book.
Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, Ray, is presented by Doer, the world's most comfortable pants and shorts. You got back to Vancouver for a couple of days. Did you slide in a couple of t-shirts? There it is. For those watching on the YouTube
really
channel,
comfortable.
It's a Doer t-shirt.
Really comfortable. This is my in-room shirt. Gonna wear it to the gym as well. It's super soft and
love them.
Love it. Love it. I'm like, oh, look at this box. What a gift coming home. Oh, by the way, I didn't think I told you this story, but I get home, we're sitting in the kitchen, and Reese, our 12-year-old, had gone to basketball. He comes back, he's going to go take a shower. So he's upstairs in the shower. All of a sudden, there's water pouring through the roof.
Oh, no.
I don't know much about plumbing, Dregs. I've been in the house 2 hours. That's not good. So I go up there. The water is up to his ankles. And I'm like, shut the shower off. And he's like, he doesn't even really know, right? He's 12. He doesn't know. And so he's like, Wyatt, no, what's wrong? Like, why is it not going down the drain? And I go, well, probably since nobody's cleaned it since we moved into the house, which of course would be my job. But anyway, and so the water had poured everywhere. It was a flood. And so when I left, there's a hole in the roof. And I said to Cammie, any chance that could be done, like fixed by the time I get back?
Yeah.
Because I'd been in the house 2 hours. I'm like, what is going on here? Oops.
Eventful couple of days, right? I mean, you stocked up on
picked up my Doer stuff. I got my
Doer stuff.
I had a little sip of the CC, which was very nice.
Needed that after the
right over your shoulder, by the way.
Yeah.
And cut a hole in the ceiling and then left. Yeah. Other than that, it was not much going on.
Yeah, just another couple of days in the Ferraro Granado house. That's all. Don't forget, when looking for the Doer products, which are exceptional, by the way, check them out, doer.ca. Use code RND15, and you will save 15% off everything at doer.ca. So here's an interesting Ask Ray and Dregs Anything question from Brandon Cartwright, okay? Now, Brandon acknowledges, Ray, he's a diehard Bruins fan from Ontario, likes to debate hockey, has a heated debate ongoing with his brother on the top 5 defensemen of all time. Now, all time is a long time. We're going to bring this maybe, what do you think, from the 70s forward? Because
I would say we'd call that like the modern.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're getting into Beliveau, Harvey. I mean, go down the list, right? So Brandon says Boston has had 3 of the top 5, in his opinion. Bobby Orr, okay, no dispute. Ray Bourque, Zdeno Chara. Now, he strongly disagrees with Chara on the list, but he wants to know who is your top 5, and then asks, why is Boston always so blessed with defensemen? Because now they have Charlie McAvoy, and they've had some good pieces. So start with your top 5.
Well, Bobby Orr for sure.
Yeah.
Larry Robinson.
Okay.
I think maybe the most underrated great player since the 70s, Dennis Potvin.
Agreed.
An amazing player.
Yeah.
Amazing player. Nick Lidstrom, for sure.
Hard to not have him on the list, yeah.
So I've got those 4. Now, you get into Bourque, Coffey.
Niedermeyer, maybe.
I think he's a tier below.
Yeah, okay.
I think And of course, a tier below meaning amazing, right? Like we're not, it's pretty hard to, would you? I mean, I think Bork is close to that, to the top 5. Chara can be the doorman, right? Like because he's so big and tough and strong, but he's not inside the room. Right. He's just protecting everybody in there.
Wow.
So I got 4 of them, right?
That's pretty solid. Yeah.
So or in my list anyway. So Lidstrom or Potvin, Robinson, Coffee, Bork would be right there.
Yeah.
Right there. Niedermeyer would be right there. We'll be missing somebody for sure,
of
but
course,
but I can't.
So just to wrap up his thought on why Boston is so deep when it comes to defensemen, just draft and development, right?
Draft the right guy, right? I mean, like McAvoy went 15th, I think, in his draft year. Plenty of people had chances to draft him, and and they chose somebody else.
Did you see Landon while you were home? Son Landon?
For a couple of times, yeah, he came.
Okay, because
came up and saw him. Haven't seen him much at all since he got home because I've been on the road.
Yeah, well, he tagged us on Instagram.
Oh, isn't he? I'm sure that's really positive.
Yeah, he asked, "How was the end of Ray's Father's Day dinner?"
Yeah, that was the
shower issue.
That was the shower incident. Funny for everybody. Everybody got a big laugh at it. They're like, "Relax, it's just water." Oh yeah, it's just water. At the time, I don't know what's coming out of the shower.
It could come out of the toilet.
Well, who knows, right? Like, I don't know what's going on. And so, of course, I would say there was a moment of what the is going on here. There was a moment of that, or a few moments of that.
Because you're a bit sleep deprived. I mean, you're wound up. You just come off the road for weeks.
And I got to say, it was really great to see everybody on Father's Day and, Father's Day dinner and, have myself purchase the Father's Day dinner.
Yeah.
That was, I mean,
I've never understood that, right?
So, Landon, Matt, his brother's got 2 kids. So he was his own Father's Day, but, somebody could have bought a card. I don't know. How was your, did you guys have a dinner or anything?
Well, it's not Father's Day yet.
Yeah, but I mean, no, I guess you get it on time. I'm not going to be home for it anyway. So maybe nobody was real. I'm going to tell myself nobody was really in the cycle of thinking about it yet.
Okay. Brian Mudryk is a constant.
Oh, what a pain in the ass Muddy is. Yeah. Isn't he?
Well,
where is he now?
Well,
what is he doing?
Our Instagram prompt was, what you got this week? So Muddy isn't asking a question. He just replied. He said, I got 44 on the front, 34 on the back. That's what he got.
See, Muddy's good too, eh? And he loves to play.
Yeah.
And he's got his dog, Sir Pops, with him everywhere they go too.
Yeah. Does he take him on the cart? Like, is he on the golf course?
Oh, I think he probably will. He's probably got... I think Muddy's got a little one of those carriers, that can go
For sure
anywhere.
He does. Yeah. Okay, let's wrap up Ask Rain Dregs Anything with a more serious hockey question. This one comes from @Dragons_Quest, Jamie Weens, who's asking a Florida question, couple of questions. Do we think that Bobrovsky will be traded? And who will be the new bench boss in Florida? And man, it just feels weird that we even have to talk about it, given the fact that Andrew Burnett takes over under trying circumstances with Joel Quenneville pushed aside or stepping aside. All he does is coach the crap out of the Florida Panthers, right? They win the President's Trophy. He's a finalist for the Jack Adams, and the Florida Panthers now are interviewing for the next head coach of the Florida Panthers. I mean, it's a bizarre situation. It is.
At some point, directness is probably the best tact.
Yeah.
And so if you're, hey, we really like what you did, but we might like somebody better. But at some point, pretty quickly here, you've got to have some clarity, because if they decide, which is their choice, that Brunette's not going to be back, and of course I'm biased, he's my buddy, but they've got to tell him so he can make a decision on his future, whatever that might be. And that's really how that coaching, scouting world works, is you tell somebody in advance of the end of their contract so they can start putting a little shovel in the ground to get on to the next job. So next coach, you may have a gut feel on that more than others. Is it Brunette? Is it somebody else? But they've got to clear that up somewhere. As far as Bobrovsky, I think they believe Spencer Knight's there. Is their goalie of the future, but that's a $10 million cap hit. So would they move him? Sure, maybe, but how and where?
Mm-hmm.
So can you take back 50% of the cap? Is that what it is?
I believe so. I'd have to check that. Yeah.
So if they were to trade, Bobrovsky, A, they wouldn't be getting much back. B, they'd have to keep, I would think, half the cap hit. So Spencer Knight's on his entry-level contract, so that's, I don't know, say $1 million. So that means their goalie position would be between $6 and $7 million next year, which is better than 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting, just given the carousel of teams that, are looking for goaltending. I guess you have to decide whether Bobrovsky, who had a really good year for the Florida Panthers, is
really did.
An upgrade. All right, bud. Is there a direct flight from Denver to Tampa Bay?
There is. I'm not on it. I would say I was probably a day tardy in booking those flights.
So how are you getting to Tampa Bay?
Oh, I've got a direct flight to Chicago, and then another direct flight from Chicago. That's how I'm getting to Tampa. Coming back, I think I'm going through Atlanta, maybe. I don't know. I'm connecting both ways. What are you going to do?
Yeah. All right. Looking forward to
another airport, another flight. Game 2 is going to be awesome, and I can't wait for it.
All right, man. Well, thanks for taking the time, breaking up your workout, because it sounded like when I connected with you prior to the record of the podcast, you were in mid cardio, mid lift, mid something.
That was mid lift. Mid lift. I'm going to go back and finish the cardio now.
All right, buddy.
Well, at least that's my intention, or I'll go eat breakfast. One of the two. I'm not sure.
Well, either way, do it with a smile on your face, right? Thanks again.
I will do that. Thanks, Drakes. Thanks for today, and setting everything up as always. And everyone, thanks for listening.
That is episode 38. A huge shout out to our partners who make the podcast possible. Our title sponsor, our good friends at Canadian Club Whiskey, who ask each week, are you over beer? Coolbet.co, the free-to-play sports and casino games website. By Boston Pizza. Pick it up, get it delivered to your door. Just let Boston Pizza do the cooking tonight. And by Doer. Use code RND15 and you will save 15% off everything at doer.ca. That is episode 38 of the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. Until next week, probably midway through the Stanley Cup Championship Final. Enjoy yourself and look forward to episode 39.